FBI agents pulled off national security cases, federal investigators told to drop terrorism leads, cybercrime probes, and trafficking operations, all to dig through one mountain of old files. Not to find new evidence but to erase a name. That's the claim that's rattling Washington tonight, and if even part of it is true, it raises the most uncomfortable question imaginable: who really controls justice in America? Reports say it started quietly. Late-night orders, phone calls no one wanted to confirm, agents suddenly transferred to a classified facility in Virginia.
Chair now recognizes the gentlelady from California.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm concerned by reports that FBI agents have been diverted from their important work on crime and anti-terrorism to work on matters that are not critical to our safety. I'd like to play the video, the whole video
Jeffrey
clip.
Epstein's
Black Book?
Black Book.
FBI.
But who? That is, I mean, there's...
Oh, that's under direct control of the director of the FBI.
But the Black Book, it's not just sitting, I mean, that's Hoover power times 10.
And to me, that's a thing I think President Trump should run on. On day one, roll out the Black Book.
In contrast to that attitude of let it all out, we're getting reports of actions that run contrary to getting everything out and that also involve diversions of FBI resources. For example, an FBI whistleblower reported that you were pressured by the Attorney General to place 1,000 personnel on 24-hour shifts to mine roughly 100,000 Epstein-related records to redact President Trump's name from the files. Bloomberg reported this, that you directed FBI special agents from the New York and Washington field offices to join the Bureau's FOIA employees in Winchester and another building a few miles away, and that while reviewing the Epstein files, FBI personnel identified numerous references to Trump in the documents, and people familiar with the matter said that Trump's name, along with other high-profile individuals, was blacked out. Now, the New York Times reports, and this is a quote, Justice Department officials diverted hundreds of FBI employees and federal prosecutors from their regular duties to go through the documents at least 4 times, including once to flag any references to Mr. Trump and other prominent figures. Details of the review were based on accounts by 3 former FBI and Justice Department officials who spoke on condition of anonymity because of fears of retaliation, and further that the FBI finished, after they finished its review of the files and materials, was sent to a team of Justice Department lawyers who double-checked the FBI's redactions and, quote, were instructed to flag any mentions of Mr. Trump and other celebrities. Now, I have 3 questions for you, Mr. Patel, about this. First, how many times did President Trump's name appear in the Epstein files? Was it more than 100, more than 1,000? Were the agents who were pulled from their duties to redact the president's name from the Epstein files working on criminal cases or national security cases or child sex trafficking cases? And are the number of agents that have been reported diverted for these purposes, is that accurate?
No.
No what?
You asked if it was accurate. I said it wasn't.
So you're saying that none of this happened? That,
No, I'm saying it was inaccurate.
okay. How many times did President Trump appear in the Epstein files? More than 100? More than 1,000?
No, and what we've been able to release is what we've been legally able to release, and that has
No,
been
that's not the
provided to
question.
public.
I asked you, how many times did the president's name appear?
I don't know.
It's your testimony. You do not know that
The
answer.
number of times, no.
Could you tell us how many agents were diverted for this task and what they were working on?
When you say diverted, you make it seem as if agents were pulled off what they do all the time. Agents at the FBI masterfully do double duty and triple duty. And because of the public's interest in this case, we flexed resources to make sure that we could answer the public's signal demand. So do you want us to look through the material and provide it to you, or you do not want us to do that?
So it's
Which
your
one is it?
it's your testimony that no one was diverted from a criminal matter, that this was a top priority to go through this material to look for Mr. Trump's name. Is that your testimony? That's the highest priority for
what's-
the FBI?
What's one of the most impressive things about the FBI leadership and the careers that are in place is that they make the decisions on who to send where on priorities and make sure the mission needs are not hurt. And that's what happened here.
It's shocking to me that the
Inside
FBI would
hundreds
think
of
that
thousands of
erasing
Epstein-related
Mr. Trump's
records
name from the
waited,
Epstein
digital
files
evidence, phone
is a high
logs, interview
priority
transcripts,
when we have
emails,
crime, we have
all of it marked for review.
no-
But
national
that word
security
review
threats,
wasn't about
we have,
accuracy, it was about redaction.
terrorism threats,
And that's where the
we have
story takes
murders
its
such as
darkest
that
turn.
occurred,
Because when Congresswoman
unfortunately,
Zoe
with
Lofgren
Mr. Kirk. It's
confronted
shocking to
FBI
hear that
Director Kash
that's your
Patel on
highest
live
priority, and
television,
with
she
that,
didn't mince
Mr.
words.
Chairman, I
That's
yield
How
literally
many
back.
not what
times
I
did the
said.
president's name appear in those files?
Gentleman yields back.
She
Gentleman from
asked.
Wisconsin is
Was
recognized.
it more than 100? More than 1,000? The room froze. Patel paused, blinked and said one word. No. That single syllable sent shockwaves across the internet. Not because it was clear, but because it wasn't. What exactly was he denying? The number? The story? Or the entire operation itself? As the exchange went on, the mystery deepened. Lofgren pressed harder. Were agents pulled from criminal cases to work on this? Patel's tone tightened. He said agents weren't diverted, just flexed. He claimed the FBI was simply responding to public interest, but even that phrasing, public interest, raised eyebrows. Because if the public truly wanted transparency, why were names disappearing instead of being revealed? That's where the hearing turned from routine oversight into something bigger, a real-time glimpse at how power shields itself. Behind every cautious answer, every "I don't recall," was a pattern viewers have seen too many times before, the slow dance between truth and control. And that's what made this hearing go viral. People weren't just listening to Lofgren's questions, they were reading Patel's body language, the way he avoided specifics, how he insisted everything was legal but never said it was right. But that wasn't the whole story. Behind the scenes, several outlets had already been reporting whispers about what really went down. According to one whistleblower's claim, the Department of Justice allegedly ordered up to 1,000 FBI employees, analysts, techs, and even agents from field offices to comb through over 100,000 Epstein-related records. Their goal? To identify and flag any references to certain high-profile individuals before the files were released to the public. Sources said the redactions weren't random, they followed a list. And the list was short. Now, to be clear, those reports remain unverified. None of the agencies involved have confirmed them, but the consistency of the accounts from Bloomberg to the New York Times has fueled one of the most intense transparency debates in years. Because if even a fraction of those claims are true, the implications are staggering. It would mean that the country's top investigative agency took its eyes off criminals and threats to manage optics, to protect reputations instead of the public. For many watching, this moment felt like déjà vu, another reminder that when justice meets politics, truth becomes negotiable, and that's exactly what Lofgren was trying to expose. Her line of questioning wasn't just about numbers or names, it was about priorities. If agents who should be tracking terrorists or child traffickers are sitting in a warehouse editing files, she said, who's watching the people who actually threaten our safety? The silence that followed said everything. Because here's the thing, inside any agency as massive as the FBI, resource reallocation sounds harmless on paper, but every reassignment has a cost. Every analyst moved from cybercrime means another ransomware case delayed. Every agent pulled from human trafficking means another victim waiting longer for justice. That's not a hypothetical, that's the real-world impact. So when 1,000 people are told to drop what they're doing for a politically sensitive file review, the ripple effect can reach far beyond the headlines. Patel pushed back, saying agents do double and triple duty all the time, that no mission was hurt. But anyone who's ever worked in national security knows there's a difference between doing double duty and being redirected. One is multitasking, the other is a command. And that's the part that worried everyone watching. If those decisions were political, not operational, what does that mean for the next crisis that comes across the Bureau's desk? And it's not the first time questions like this have surfaced. Over the years, the FBI has faced criticism for how it handles politically sensitive cases, from selective redactions to delayed disclosures. Each time, officials promise transparency when legally appropriate. Yet the pattern continues: documents disappear, names vanish, and the public is told to trust the process. But what happens when trust itself becomes the casualty? That's why Lofgren's interrogation mattered. She wasn't just asking about one case, she was demanding accountability for an entire system that too often operates in the shadows, and while Patel's answers were technically careful, they were emotionally hollow. His claim that the Bureau simply flexed resources to meet demand felt less like reassurance and more like damage control. Because let's be honest, no one flexes 1,000 agents unless someone high up demands it. But there's another layer here that most coverage missed: the psychological warfare of perception. The moment the words Epstein files and redaction appear in the same sentence, public trust evaporates. You don't need conspiracy theories to see why. It's not about believing the wildest claims, it's about realizing how secrecy breeds suspicion. When the system refuses to explain itself, people fill the silence with their own conclusions. And in today's world, those conclusions spread faster than the truth ever can. Online forums have been flooded with discussions dissecting every detail: who ordered the review, when it happened, and which names were actually removed. Some claim the redactions were routine, others believe it was an intentional cover-up. Neither side has proof, but that's the problem. The absence of proof has become the story. Transparency delayed is trust denied. And while officials defend these reviews as standard procedure, the public sees something else: a hierarchy of accountability. Ordinary citizens face consequences for even minor offenses, yet when the powerful are involved, the rules seem to bend. Whether or not these specific allegations are accurate, the optics alone are devastating. The idea that law enforcement might prioritize protecting the influential over protecting the innocent strikes at the very core of justice. Lofgren knew that. That's why she kept pressing, refusing to let the conversation drift into bureaucratic jargon. How many times did the name appear? She repeated. Were these agents working on criminal cases before this order? Each question was a trap, not for drama, but for clarity. And the more Patel sidestepped, the more obvious the tension became. It wasn't a debate, it was a tug-of-war between transparency and control. And somewhere between those questions and his evasions, a bigger realization hit the audience: this wasn't about one politician, or even one agency. It was about the system itself, a system that's become expert at managing perception instead of delivering truth. When power decides what the public is ready to know, democracy quietly loses another piece of itself. But this isn't new. The same dynamic has haunted high-profile cases for decades. Every time sensitive files surface, the same story unfolds: claims of redactions, anonymous sources, denials, and then months of silence. The details change, but the outcome rarely does. The truth gets buried under ongoing investigations and legal reviews. The Epstein case just happens to be the most explosive example yet, because it touches the untouchable: money, influence, and secrets no one wants exposed. And that's what makes this story resonate far beyond one hearing room. It's not about political theater, it's about public faith. Every time an agency says, "We can't release that yet," people remember the lies they've been told before. And faith, once lost, is almost impossible to rebuild. The question isn't whether files were redacted, it's whether justice itself is being redacted. Imagine being one of those agents. You've spent your career chasing traffickers, breaking up child exploitation networks, hunting terrorists. Then one day you're told to stop, to sit in a fluorescent-lit room, scrolling through old case files, erasing references to names you can't even say out loud. It's not illegal work, but it isn't justice either. It's maintenance, maintaining appearances, maintaining control, maintaining silence. And that silence is louder than any statement, because when law enforcement becomes a tool of image management, no one is truly safe. The moment accountability depends on convenience, truth becomes negotiable. And that's why hearings like this matter, not because they'll instantly change the system, but because they remind the public to keep watching, to keep questioning, to keep demanding answers. Lofgren closed her questioning with a simple but devastating point. It's shocking that this would be considered a high priority, and she was right. When a country's top investigators spend more time editing the past than protecting the present, something fundamental has gone wrong. You could feel the discomfort ripple through the room, not anger, not outrage, but quiet realization, the kind that makes you wonder what else we don't know. And that's the real story here, not just what was said on camera, but what it represents: the struggle between truth and control, transparency and secrecy, justice and reputation. It's easy to dismiss these hearings as political theater, but they're not. They're the few moments when the people inside the system are forced to answer to the people outside of it. And even when those answers are vague, the act of asking still matters, because sunlight is the one thing power can't easily redact. What happens next will depend on whether public pressure keeps building. The more people pay attention, the harder it becomes to bury the truth. Whether these files ever see the light of day is one question, but the bigger one is whether the agencies meant to protect the public can still be trusted to do so. That's why staying informed matters. Because every hearing, every question, every reluctant answer adds another piece to the puzzle. And if there's one lesson in all of this, it's that truth doesn't vanish when it's hidden, it festers. The longer it's kept in the dark, the more powerful it becomes when it finally surfaces. And when it does, the fallout is always worse than the truth itself. Maybe that's why so many people are demanding the full release of the Epstein records, not for gossip, but for closure, for justice that isn't filtered through politics. So if you're watching this, remember, stories like these aren't just about what the powerful did, they're about what the public is willing to tolerate. Because every unanswered question is an invitation to dig deeper. And as this case continues to unfold, one thing's clear: the silence from those in charge speaks volumes. Keep watching, keep questioning, because transparency isn't given, it's demanded. And if you believe these stories matter, the ones they try to bury, edit or erase, then hit subscribe, tap like, and share this video. Because the only thing stronger than power is people who refuse to look away.